the Black Forest Slender Man, Germany. The name may be eerie already, but the Black Forest got its name from the Romans, who had set eyes upon thick, almost impenetrable, lush conifer trees that made up the mountainous forest in southwest Germany. Since some parts of the forest become so dim due to the denseness of its trees, there has long been local folklore and legends about what may have happened in the Black Forest. From demonic dances to devil worshipping, and sites where witches would have been free to come out to act their blasphemy, there is one tale that locals say still could potentially lurk on in the darkness behind the branches today. Der Grossmann is German for the Slender Man, a tall, lanky entity that tiptoes through the Black Forest. Somewhat disfigured with arms as long as its legs, one look into its bulging pupils and the tortured face will be embedded into your mind whenever you close your own eyes. Parents of the nearby villages have long taunted their children that if they misbehave, they'll be sent to the Slender Man. Those who actually were, mysteriously, had never returned from the forest. The Wolfsegg Castle's Woman in White, Germany. It's no wonder that one of Europe's oldest countries, Germany, is filled with sites that claim to be haunted by souls that were never laid to rest. The 800-year-old Wolfsegg Castle, a seemingly majestic Bavarian splendor, is one of these places. In the sunlight, the castle looks like it can be a replica for Rapunzel. However, as the evening sets in or days when the fog settles too low, Wolfsegg Castle is a place that shouldn't be visited by the faint of heart. Locals today still tell the tale of Ulrich von Lauber and his wife Clara von Helfenstein, who both inhabited the castle. When Clara took on a secret lover, she would rendezvous all around the castle walls while Ulrich was gone. Ulrich then learned of Clara's affairs and, fueled with anger, he hired 2 farm boys to kill his wife. Upon these unfortunate events, her lover disappeared, and when Ulrich returned to Wolfsegg Castle, he would end up without a trace as well. Nowadays, the castle is an open museum that, interestingly enough, some visitors have said they've seen a fleeting presence in the corridors of a woman in white. The Catacombs of Paris, France. Above ground, Paris is known as the city of life and love, with icons like the twinkling Eiffel Tower. Underground, the city is riddled with a tunnel that snakes over 200 kilometers long, filled with skulls, bones, and the remains of over 6 million deceased people. It's an eerie contrast to a city that's often romanticized and what most people wouldn't come to think of when they picture Paris. Yet a section that runs about 1.5 kilometers from the Catacombs of Paris is accessible to the general public to explore. If you do plan to undertake this macabre activity, be sure to plan and book your tickets in advance, since day of bookings are rare to come by. But an adventure into the underbelly of Paris makes for a time warp trip back to the late 18th century when the catacombs started. Mont Saint-Michel, France. What looks like a Disney fairy tale location today was more like a sinister Brothers Grimm fairy tale back then. Mont Saint-Michel is undeniably attractive, an island in a bay in Normandy that's controlled by the tides. At certain times of the day, depending on the tides, the island and its hilltop abbey is only accessible by boat. Anyone who gets a chance to lay eyes on this place will be in jaw-dropping awe of what a vision it is. But like some beauty, there's a dark side. During the country's 100 Years' War with England, Captain Louis de Stouteville and his army had a gory battle that ended up with the death and bloodbath of over 2,000 Englishmen. Since the high waters were not in yet, the sand surrounding Mont Saint-Michel was drenched and washed with blood of the slaughtered. And when the tides did come in, bodies upon bodies drifted in and out around the island. To this day, there are local legends that the spirits of those unrested men haunt the abbey and within the historical walls of Mont Saint-Michel. Gates of Hell, Vardoe in Norway. Within the secluded Norwegian Arctic, where the winds never seemed to stop howling, and the harsh climate often got residents to hide away, over a dozen women were falsely accused and executed for witchcraft. This may have happened over 4 centuries ago, but today the sins of the past are still steeped in the town of Vardoe, where a memorial stands on the Vardoe Peninsula. Back then, about 31% of the country's witch hunts and its subsequent horrific indictments happened in this remote northern area. This leads to the idea back then to an entrance to hell, which was called literally the gates of hell, where the devil and demons could have been summoned from witchcraft, out of the fire and into the ice. Today you can visit the Stalnaset Memorial and walk through a candlelit corridor commemorating the 91 people that were executed for witchcraft. The pain of the past lives on in the plaques along the walls, detailing who they were and what happened to each person. Hill of Crosses, Lithuania. A pilgrimage site that sits in the hinterlands in northern Lithuania, the Hill of Crosses to this day draws a spectacle, as it is significant for those that make the journey for their spirituality. Picture this: a hilltop with rows and packed stacks of crucifixes, statues of the Virgin Mary, and cross after cross. The Hill of Crosses started off in the 1810s with already over 9,000 crosses, and nowadays there are over 100,000 piercing into the one hill alone. It's possible to stroll through the narrow alley throughout the crosses, but there have been reported sightings of supernatural entities and figures over the centuries. Fear not. As a pilgrimage site, it also has become a symbolic place that holds a peaceful representation for local Lithuanians of their perseverance against occupying invaders like the Russian Tsar and the Soviet Union. Cizmigiu Hotel, Romania. This historical hotel from 1912, located in the heart of Bucharest, adds to why the city is one of Europe's most haunted capitals. The Cizmigiu Hotel today is of modern luxury, impeccable service, and thoughtfully designed contemporary rooms with well-preserved Art Nouveau architecture. But behind the sleek interior still reeks a storied, chilling past that echoes in its hallways to this day. The Cizmigiu Hotel that you can book a room to stay at today was actually left in cobwebs, disarray, and abandoned back in 1970s. That is, until the Theatre Academy purchased it and turned it into student living for the university. Unfortunately, during a cold winter weekend before the holidays were to start, most students had left to go home but one girl. That night, in the dimly lit hallways, she walked into what she thought was a dorm room, but instead tumbled far down an open elevator shaft. Adding to the tragedy, she had still survived the fall, though badly hurt and immobile. Screaming out for help, her broken voice had echoed from the bottom of the shaft, though no one was around to hear. When students had returned back from their holiday, her body was discovered. And since then, people have claimed they would hear the sound of shattering cries bellowing through the hotel in the middle of the night.
If you enjoy the video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to support us, share it to your bestie.